All right, so I'm thinking let's get the show on the road, guys, right? We're a couple of minutes past, so let me just welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm David Eskenazi. Welcome to the Aliyah Network Israel Healthcare Explained event. This is the third of four Aliyah Network 2024 kickoff Zoom events. So keep an eye out for mortgage and real estate law. We hope to get to that next. There was a little bit of a hiccup in the past. We apologize for that, but we'll get to it. If there's a topic that anybody here would like to learn more about, please feel free to share in the chat below and contact us at aliyahnetworkevents@gmail.com. We are recording this, as you know. We'll be making it available for those who couldn't make it with us today. So keep an eye out for our videos also on our YouTube channel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marcy Eskenazi from the Aliyah Network. The Aliyah Network is a support group of real people who have made Aliyah or in the process of making Aliyah. We come together as a group to offer information, inspiration, advice, and support. When you make Aliyah, we want you to know that you are not alone. We are properties
Marcy.
primarily in the Western Galil.
Okay, you kind of went out for a second. That's okay. We're delighted to have Aviva Yaselis. She's the CEO and lead consultant of Health Advise. She's here with us today to cover what you need to know about healthcare here in Israel. Just a little bit about Health Advise. Health Advise helps English speakers navigate the Israeli healthcare system to maximize medical benefits and to find the doctors and services that are really right for them. Aviva started the Health Advise after seeing so many new and established Olim simply fall through the cracks and not receive the health benefits to which they're entitled to. We're super happy to have her with us here today.
Before we get started, today marks the 120th day of the war. We just wanted to say that our hearts and prayers go out to all those affected by the war. We are all in this together, and of course, our prayers for the safety of all of our soldiers and for the safe return of our hostages. We feel now more than ever it's important to open the doors to Aliyah and to bring out as much help and information as possible. May Hashem help all of us unite even closer and to bring all of us home.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so thanks you so much for that, Marcy. Let's jump right into it. As I said before, just mute your microphones. Also, make sure to use the chat feature here on Zoom. We definitely encourage you to type any questions you may have during this discussion, and we'll try to cover them in real time as they come up. So I was chatting with Aviva earlier today about how I am able to wrap my head around the topics we've covered, like real estate, community shipping, home mortgages, even to some extent. But when it comes to the Israeli healthcare system, I simply do not know what I don't know. So I would like to say before she gets into a little bit of a presentation, I think she has. I'd like just to, like we did the last time, to open the floor to any questions you may have that perhaps Aviva can answer right away. So now's the time to do that. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. That'd be great. All right, Yocheved.
Hi, I meant to do a little click thing, but I didn't. Sorry. Hi, Aviva. Thank you for helping us. My quick question is, like, if you're on, and then maybe you may address this, but like my biggest concern is like having medication that I'm on, and I know people tell me get a few months ahead, like so that way when I get there I can get settled. Is it easy? I don't want to say easy, but is it a simple process, like to get like the continuation? I just worry about that because my doctor, I've talked to him already, and he said he's willing to give me like 2 months if he can, 3 months, but he said above that my insurance won't let me get more than that. So do you think I would need more than that? Thank you.
That is such an excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that. So the recommendation is to always have 3 months if you can. I know some medications are more difficult to get than others. When you come, why is that? Because certain medications need different levels of approval here in Israel, meaning the way that the drug market works in America is different than how it works in Israel. Sometimes the doctors have an impetus to prescribe certain medications because the money sort of comes back to them in a different way. But here in Israel, it has nothing to do with that. The doctor is completely separate than the prescription and the way medication is funded. So medications that are considered first tier in America are actually more expensive. So they're considered here second tier. So it means that you have to go through a trial of medication before you'd be able to get prescribed. For example, there's like the ADD medication, I think it's called Vyonase. So that is in America, that's more often prescribed, but here in Israel, it's a second tier medication, meaning you'd have to get prescribed Ritalin first, have a negative reaction, and then get the prescription. So what I tell people all the time is, first of all, you have to have a letter from your doctor saying what medications you've taken before. Second of all, why you were prescribed that medication. Third of all, and I'm happy to post it, maybe we'll post it like on the YouTube channel right on the bottom. I'll post you the website where they've made it easier to go in so you can see if your medication is in the basket of services. And hopefully I'll briefly cover that in like the beginning, which means that it's automatically sort of covered versus a medication that you need permission for. So that's where sometimes people run into trouble. So you mostly your generics, like your SSRIs, your cholesterol medication, your high blood pressure, those the ones that already have a generic are almost always covered, and it's not a problem to get them prescribed right away. But for those it might be more complicated, it's good to make sure that you come with a 3-month supply to give you time to get the permission. So in a nutshell, I hope that answers.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Anybody else want to have a question they want to ask directly? We could just raise your hand now. Alexander?
Yeah, yes. So when you come, I'm taking medications for several different conditions from several different specialists, including diabetic. When you first come, can your general practitioner prescribe those medicines, at least in the beginning, so you can continue on them? Because it may take time to see all these different specialists, and there's a limit to how much medicine you can bring with you. Like when I just came to Israel, I got 3 months supply extra, but they only do that once a year, so I may not be able to come with that much.
That is a very good question. The basic medications, let's say that the medications that are already generic, they almost always can be prescribed by your family doctor. Medications that are unique or medications that are, say, like second tier, sometimes need to be prescribed by a specialist, which means if it's like a specific heart medication, whatever it's connected to, the cardiologist. Diabetes almost always is the family doctor can prescribe them. Certain neurological medication, let's say like Lyrica, if you're taking that for nerve pain, that has to be prescribed initially by a rheumatologist or a neurologist to get that medication covered under the basket of services. A lot of it isn't intuitive. So what I tell people, if you don't find it or it's not clear to you, I'm happy as part of this group also, and you can have my email. If you send me a line and you say, look, I was on your group, can you tell me if this medication, if I would need a specialist, happy to answer that on email so that you can, go ahead and schedule that right when you land.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and also diabetic sensors, like if you're type 2 and you have a continuous glucose monitor, yeah.
Those are all covered, and that the family doctor can prescribe to you. I recommend not connected to coverage that in addition to seeing the family doctor, you do see an endocrinologist, because a lot of people say, oh, the family doctor can regulate and can do the follow-up with my diabetes. But having been in the system for a long time and having worked with endocrinologists, they say, please tell people to see, because it's very different when you see somebody who's an expert versus the family doctor who has sort of the general view. So now each kupa also has a diabetic clinic that's always associated with it in your geographic area. And I strongly recommend for people to do their follow-up in those clinics because you just have more exposure, more knowledge, etc. But the doctor can for sure prescribe you, and then you get them, you go to the kupa, or sometimes they deliver them, but those are all covered in the basket of services.
Alexander, does that clear things up for you?
Yeah, because I know at one point there was a problem if you were type 1 diabetic, they gave you a continuous monitor right away. But if you're type 2, they made you show that you have problems, very low, high, very highs, very lows. They wouldn't just give you a monitor if you're type 2.
Anytime you're coming, in general, and this is for anybody who has any type of chronic condition, you need to make sure that you come with comprehensive documentation from preferably a specialist that says exactly what has gone on. So like what you said in terms of diabetes, when you were diagnosed, what your follow-up is, if you are not regulated, if you often have the highs and lows and need more constant monitoring, you need to come with that that's documented. And I tell people that when you go to your family doctor or a specialist, I call it translating your documents, but it's not really, it's just not translating the language. It's also translating it into the system here that can understand and sort of interpret, because doctors and the system in America put things together very differently than what it is here. So you are absolutely right that you need to come with all of that documented, Alexander, in your medical papers, and tell the family doctor that so he can put it in the system as that, so they know, okay, this is somebody who's going to need continuous monitoring from the get-go. As long as you make the case and you have documentation to back yourself up, then you're usually a strong case, and it's nothing to worry about. It's only when it comes based on anecdotal and what you're telling that it can get, sort of like a problematic situation.
I can only imagine how sticky things could get if you do not come with the proper documentation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I recommend people don't come like with the book, meaning you do have to do some kind of like triage when you go to each specialist. Because if you give the specialist like, here is the tome of medical, my history since 1982, they're not going to read it. They're not going to go through. You have to sort of do the culling beforehand, and you have to do the preparation beforehand to know, like, okay, this is what I'm presenting to the doctor, so that he'll focus on the important points and not get sort of mired in the details.
Okay, great. Fantastic. I think we have a question coming in from Sharon.
You just answered it, so thank you.
What's the question?
I was going to ask if, let's say you don't have anything major going on, but you know, little things here and there, should you come with a whole Megillah of your records before you come? And you already answered it. So it sounds like you just bring what's essential if there's some red light out there.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
but for women who've done mammographies in America, I strongly recommend that you bring the actual documentation, or anybody else who's done any kind of like imaging follow-up over the years. Let's say you have like, some people have like a benign growth in an organ that they've had over the years that they've just been following. Bring the image itself, bring the disc. You should also bring the paperwork that goes with it, but the systems will not mesh, and your doctor's not going to try to get into the computer system of whatever Mass General Hospital to see the image. So as the best you can, and everyone always says, what, the image, it's not online? No, it's not online. This is Israel. Some hospitals are online, a lot aren't. The doctor's still looking at the CDs, so just bring it with you just in case.
Yeah, so bring these with you. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if that's a song, but yes, but bring that disc. Yes.
And bring your songs too while you're out.
Yeah, bring your songs, exactly.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? Now's a good time. Otherwise, I think, Aviva, you had some questions that you wanted to pose, right?
Do you want me to ask the questions first, or should I show the slides, or
whatever you'd like?
Whatever.
Go ahead.
Okay.
If you want to do the slides, that's great.
All right, let's see. I don't know if this will, I forget. So do I have access to share the screen here? Oh, no, you have to give me access?
Just bear with me 1 second.
I just want to thank you also for mentioning the soldiers. My Khayal, my soldier, came on Thursday after 5 weeks in Gaza. He went back this morning. So I hope they'll get out soon.
Oh, wow.
But it was very nice for you to mention that. It makes me smile.
Sure. I made you the host for now, so if you want to go ahead and just share your screen, you can do that now.
Sharing my screen. Okay. So you guys all see that?
We see, yep.
You see my slide?
We see your slide and everything else for that matter. If you want to full screen that, whatever.
Okay, I will full screen. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
So I just want to give a very brief overview because the systems are so different. I assume everybody here is coming from North America or United States, or am I incorrect in that? Anybody here not from North America?
That's a better question. That's a better question. I think pretty much everybody here is from North America, from what you
Okay,
can
I
tell.
shouldn't even say North America, I should say the United States, because Canada has their own,
Mm.
health system, so.
I just want to say, I don't know if they're on or not, but I did see we had some signups from France. So
Okay,
not
yes,
sure if
France.
they came in or not.
Right, so France is very different. So it's more similar to the Israeli system, so they're used to it. But for those people who come from the United States and are used to like a fee for service type of situation, so I just wanted to explain sort of how it works. So there are three bodies that are in charge of our healthcare. There's Bituach Leumi, which is the National Health Service, which is kind of like Social Security, but it's like a little bit more big brother than that. There's the Misrad Briut, which is the Ministry of Health, which is also a deliverer of some services, but also the supervisor of all the services, which can sometimes be a bit of a conflict of interest. And then we have the Kupat Cholim, or the She'utei Briut, the health services, and those are the people who actually deliver the services to us in the community. But if you see over on the right-hand side in sort of the blue box, this is how it's set up, meaning Bituach Leumi is the roof. They provide all of our services, health and social welfare, like if you want disability before you retire, or unemployment benefits, or you were in a car accident, or you fell off a ladder in your house, all those benefits come through Bituach Leumi. Bituach Leumi is also in charge of what they say the basket of services, the Sal Briut, if you guys have heard of that. Every year, the government votes on what services are going to be covered for free or very, very subsidized in the basket of services and what are not. That's anywhere from like an MRI to different chemo medications to anti-anxiety medications to diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. So that is where those are where you're going to get covered. And that's what I was talking about beforehand, that sometimes you need a special permission if the service or the medication is not in the basket of services. But I just want to take like a moment here and explain, because I get this question a lot. I am originally from New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, so I know I'm like exposed to very good hospitals and medical. I worked in the healthcare system in the United States, in Philadelphia, before I made Aliyah. There is an excellent healthcare system in Israel. Obviously, there are differences in different areas around the country. It's a really good system. It's getting much more user-friendly than it was even 10 years ago. But you need to know sort of what's available to you and what's not. But overall, God forbid, like you're in an emergency situation, this is the place to be. Meaning the emergency surgery, the emergency medication, all those things, everything is covered. It's not an issue. When you come down to more choices and elective surgeries, etc., so that's when there are more nuances, and that's where maybe like you have more questions, etc. I just want to put that out there. Okay, we have the 4 Kupot Cholim. This is the sizes. Most of the new Olim that are coming are choosing Maccabi or Meucheret. I know for those people who live up north, you guys, maybe there's more people with Klalit, because there are not. You guys have?
We're actually on Maccabi ourselves.
You're a Maccabi, okay, because I know like people in the Golan who are making Aliyah, even people in some other parts of the Galil choose Klalit, because that is still the biggest kuppah and they're most present in the periphery, unlike the other kuppot. But Meucheret and Maccabi are for sure the easiest and the most user-friendly in terms for English speakers. In addition to paying money for your Kupat Cholim, Bituach Leumi also does all the benefits here for the other, like if you're under retirement age and you want to get disability, or you're over retirement age and you need help with your activities of daily living, because you have a chronic illness or just general aging, etc. That's where you go to Bituach Leumi. If you were in if you need like a payment for your car because you're disabled, etc. So then you're going to go through Bituach Leumi to get those benefits. Now, it's important just to note here that Bituach Leumi has both a financial and a medical criteria, meaning you have to need them both medically, and you have to not earn or have passive or active income above a certain level. Okay, so that's just important to note. In addition to Bituach Leumi, outside of the blue box, we have all of what they call the supplementary insurance or mashlim. Anybody here heard of like Mukheret Adif or C, Maccabi Sheli? I don't know how much you guys are into the systems yet. No, you're shaking your head no. Sharon's significant other who doesn't know. So that is like a service that you pay because this is free. I mean, you have to pay with taxes, but the healthcare service is free and it's in theory. But if you pay an extra payment every month, you get additional services. What does that mean? You can see somebody privately for 3 or 4 times a year. Let's say you want to do acupuncture or you want to have a personal trainer or whatever is happening that year that they've added to the supplementary service. You get that as an extra service. So I will tell you now, I don't have any percentages in any of the kupot. I don't get any money from them whatsoever, but I highly recommend people, if you can afford it, and it's usually like between 1 and 250 shekels extra a month, depending on number of people in your family, etc., to get the supplementary insurance when you make Aliyah right away. Because if you buy it within 90 days of Aliyah, there's no waiting period for anything. It is worth it. It offers you a whole nother array of services that just makes your life much easier. So I strongly recommend.
And Aviv, if I can jump in on
Yes,
that last
please.
point you made, 100 to 100 something shekels, we're talking about $30 or something like that, 50
Yes,
bucks,
right.
something
For
like
some
that.
people are doing the calculations. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Marcy.
I just want to also add to it because we're talking medical, but it also sometimes adds to your dental coverage as well.
Yes, it does. Yes. Important note that they've added dental care. I don't know, people here, anybody have children under 18 on this group? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes,
So
I
their
do.
dental care is covered now. This is all if you go to the Kupat Cholim, you have to do a small copay. And adults over 75 now, all your dental care is also covered, which is amazing. Up to 2 implants. Okay, so it's not like everything. But all of your cavities and fillings and, if you need root canals and obviously cleanings, etc. So that's a huge.
Orthodontic work is not covered. So it's
Orthodontic is through the supplemental now, like Marcy had said. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Again, only if you seek dental care at a Kupat Cholim clinic. A lot of people think, okay, went to this nice private dentist and then I'll get money back. But no, it does not work like that.
Avia, because I know you're in the middle, but we do have a question that just came in from Ronald. He said, we pay to get Shali. How does that help me, right? I'm seeing someone privately on Wednesdays. How do I use the private? Is that a clear question for you?
Yes, it is. Okay, so I assume that Ronald's already in Israel since he has Maccabi Sheli. So Maccabi Sheli offers you 4 private visits with a consultant or like to get a second opinion in the calendar year. That's important to note, from January to January. So it renews itself in January. And you just have to sort of make sure that that person has a contract with Maccabi before you go. Sometimes if you're paying 300 shekels, anywhere between 200 and 300 shekels, then you're already getting the discount. If you're paying anywhere at 600, 800, 1,000 shekels, then you're not getting the discount. You have to get the receipt from the doctor and you submit it online to the kupa, either through the app or you can bring it in, but it's very easy to do it on the app now. Again, the apps are all in Hebrew, just telling people that ahead of time. The website you can translate into English, but the app is still in Hebrew. And then you get your money back. Now, if you're going to a major hospital, let's say any of the hospitals in Jerusalem or most of the
Shaarei Tzedek.
Shaarei Tzedek, yes. And almost all the doctors in Shaarei Tzedek have some type of agreement with Maccabi, but it's bet you can check online. You type in the doctor's name, and it'll show you under Mashlim, and it'll show you if they have an agreement with. But how much did you pay? 200 already, or you don't know yet?
So the Wednesday thing they told me is 850 shekels.
Yes.
They said so that was private, but if I went to see this person through Maccabi, it wouldn't be until May.
Yes.
So I just said you should see him earlier.
No, that's very smart. That is very smart. And probably then you have to submit the receipt to Maccabi, and you will get the money back, which is like 85% of whatever you paid up until 850 shekels.
Okay, toda.
You are very welcome.
Thank you.
It is important to note that there is a law now in Israel that if the person sees you publicly, let's say you saw this doctor in May and you really liked him and you wanted to see him again, but he didn't have another appointment for 6 months, but privately you could see him next month, you cannot see him privately for 6 months. I mean, you can go to private to public, and I highly recommend people, let's say you like this doctor, and he sees both in the Kupat Cholim and he sees in the hospital. You see him privately, but make the appointment for May now so that you can do the follow-up in the Kupat Cholim and you don't have to pay the private price.
Okay. I actually do have the appointment still for May, but I'm seeing him privately.
Don't cancel it. Don't cancel it.
No, I'm not.
You keep that.
If I can interrupt quickly, Viva, as host, do you see anybody coming in, just out of curiosity? If you see people coming in.
I did not see anybody coming in. No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But I think we don't have anybody. I'm going to just do one more slide, and then I'll stop with the slides, and we can do more questions.
We do have a question, though, that came in before that we'd like to cover.
Please.
So Sharon was asking about, you mentioned implants. Is that per lifetime or per year? The 2 implants, I believe it was.
It's over 75, so 2 implants. Yeah, in general.
Lifetime.
Lifetime.
Okay.
Ad may have history. Yeah.
Ad may have history. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Said there. Thank you.
Yeah. But that's only through the basket of services, meaning if you have the supplementary insurance, you have more flexibility there. They cover more.
Okay, good to know.
And the dental care.
Great.
Okay, the thing I wanted to explain to people, and your question, I think it was Ronald, was a fantastic one, which I know that this might be a lot of information to throw at everybody, so I can understand if it's a bit confusing, but I just wanted to sort of open up your thoughts so that you can sort of think about it, and when you come, it'll be something that's not so foreign, but you really need to use the system in the public route and the private route, and you kind of have to use them together. So what does that mean? If you see here, like you're in the middle, what are your doctor options? You see that you've got the Kupat Cholim, your family doctor, and that is the system works is that's kind of like your case manager in theory. Although, who can tell me who is your case manager in reality? Anybody? I guess. Yes, Sharon.
I was just pointing to Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
That's you. That's you. Good point. Yes, you're right. You're right. That is.
But I was thinking that you really have to advocate for yourself, is what I'm thinking.
Yes, you are your case manager, and I think this is like a big shift for people when they come sometimes because they're expecting the family doctor to do that. You are the manager. And if you have children or older parents that you're managing everybody else, your sort of group that you're responsible for. Like I have 5 children. I manage that. I got my parents and my husband also. I manage him as well, even though he's an adult. So that's important to know. But the family doctor is your case manager sort of in the system. So you need prescriptions, you need referrals. Let's say Ronald goes to this private doctor who says, like, you really need to do a CT. Ronald has to go back to his family doctor and say, like, the private doctor said I should do a CT. Can you please give me a referral? And that's how otherwise it's not covered. So the family doctor is your hub in that. And often, I really recommend to people to shop around when you come to Israel and find like a family doctor that you like and feel comfortable with. Because it is so helpful to have somebody that you can really bounce ideas off and can respond to you. Again, at the end of the day, it is still you who is managing and not them. Then we have the Kupat Cholim specialist. So let's say a cardiologist or a neurologist who you are seeing in the community. Okay? You need them to give you medications that are different. Let's say that the family doctor can't prescribe, like I mentioned before, Lyrica. You need them. Let's say you need you need an MRI. A specialist has to give you a referral for an MRI. A family doctor cannot give it to you. It will not be covered. You will not get accepted. Okay? So anybody who's coming, let's say Alexander, right? You're coming with diabetes. So we talked about you already should make an appointment with an endocrinologist right when you come. That's going to be your Kupat Cholim specialist who's going to follow you. If you have a heart issue, you also are going to have a Kupat Cholim cardiologist. If you have any gastro problems, you're also going to have a Kupat Cholim gastro doctor. Now, those are people that you're going to see on a routine basis. I need a follow-up every 6 months to make sure that my medication is doing what it should, if I need any follow-up blood tests, etc. If you have something that you don't know, that you have no diagnosis for, or you need a new medication because your old medications aren't working, that's when you choose to see a private specialist. Either you see them that's subsidized through the Kupa because you have this mashlim, or you see them completely privately because you've got great recommendations and you're willing to pay the 1,500 shekels and you really want answers. However, I will recommend it is very important to go see a specialist after you have as much data as you can to present to them. So you've already done blood tests in the Kupa. Maybe you've already done a basic imaging test, meaning you've already have information to show them, because chances are if you don't, they're going to send you back to do the imaging and you're going to have to go and then you're going to have to bring it again and you're going to have to pay twice. So you want to use the private as a resource to offset the Kupat Cholim or the public system. You use them in tandem. Okay. Are there questions about what I've said? Anybody? It's completely clear. I was brilliant.
Yeah.
Or everyone's so overwhelmed they've like given up and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Probably a little bit of both.
Can I ask-
Actually. No, we have a Sharon has something here.
Yeah, I am way overwhelmed because
Yep, sorry.
but I have a question for you. I'm looking at your little chart here, and it says that the private specialist, there's a subsidized through the Coupa, and there's a private specialist that's unsubsidized through the Coupa.
Yes.
So I'm a little confused
About what that
about
means.
that. Yeah.
So a private specialist who's subsidized, let's say Ronald said he had an appointment with this doctor, Charei Tzedek, and they are charging him 250 shekels to see the doctor. What does that mean? That means that that doctor has a contract with Maccabi that says that they're going to pay him a certain amount of money if he sees somebody, and also Ronald is going to pay somebody, and Ronald is going to pay the doctor, and so therefore the doctor is getting his fee. So he has an agreement with the Kupat Cholim. If you're paying someone completely privately, let's say you're going to Herzliya Medical Center because you want to do let's say a fertility consult, just putting out that, you're paying 1,500 shekels. The Kupat doesn't have an agreement with that person, so you're not going to get the money. You're not going to get the money back, and you have to pay. You have to pay the money outright of all the 1,500, and that is out. That's the difference in general. So sometimes you can pay the 1,500, and the doctor will have an agreement with the Kupat Cholim, but you have to ask them that when you make the appointment. You say, do you have an agreement with Maccabi? And they'll say yes or no, or sometimes they say we don't know. And then you have to go on the Maccabi website and put in the doctor's name and see if it pops up. If it pops up, that means that yes, they have an agreement and you're going to get the money back. 85% up till 850, whatever, shekels. So that's where it's always, people have to decide, is it worth it for me to spend that money, and get that money back, or not? So it really depends on the situation.
Right. Can I ask you once again just to check our attendance, because I think we have nothing?
I don't see anybody, but nothing popped up. But I can go into the anyway.
In the mean-
I think I can give you the share back
Yeah,
because I'm pretty
yeah, give me the
sure.
share back maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we have if we can maybe I can therefore unmute somebody here. Just bear with me 1 second.
In the meantime, we do have a question from Alexander. Does it pay to keep private U.S. worldwide insurance for about $4,500 a year?
You mean through like a Medicare situation, or you mean that you just have private
No,
insurance?
no, I used to through my previous employer.
Mm.
I have Medicare, but Medicare doesn't cover Israel. But I have secondary coverage, but it's primary out of the United States. It's about $4,500 a year. They have a deductible, then they pay 80%, after that anywhere in the world. But it does cost about $4,500 a year for a family plan. Does it pay to keep that?
So that would really be like an excellent question to that's what like it's a more complicated question because it would really determine what does everybody have in my family? Is there anything unique that we know ahead of time isn't going to be covered? Is there a doctor specifically who treats that in Israel who for some reason does not have, coverage? I would almost always say it's not worth it because it's a lot of money and almost always you can get the same coverage and the same services that are going to be subsidized by the coupon. But there are specific instances where it's not, and it would behoove you, it would be so expensive to do the procedure privately that it would. So it would be like it'd have to be like a unique situation to look over, again, if somebody in your family has something very specific that they are in follow-up for.
What about private Israeli insurance?
So I get that
We'll touch on
question
that, yeah.
all the time, especially people come from the United States are very often feel that they have to have private insurance. Uh, okay. So you again, this is I'm telling you my personal opinion from living here and also being a professional in this. I really don't think that you need private insurance if you're purchasing it individually. If you purchase it individually, it's quite costly the older you are. And if you have any pre-existing conditions, you're either disqualified completely or they won't cover any issues that deal with that pre-existing condition. When is it worth it for you? When you are working and you are purchasing in a group setting and you're purchasing at a lower rate, then you can have fantastic private insurance that's worth to pay in the copay of 50 or 100 or 150 shekels a month. For example, people work for Google, PayPal, larger high-tech companies, some startup companies. They want to give their employees a benefit, then it's really worthwhile. If you're a private individual, and I know now today there's all sorts of agents, that are out there who jump right when somebody makes Aliyah, it's almost, in my opinion, not really worth it to purchase that. I know some people really like that they have that safety net, and that's the whole point of insurance, is that it's like you hope that you won't use it and you have the safety net. I would recommend then buying a very specific policy, one that gives you, if you're still working, it gives you extra money if you have any type of oncology diagnosis, or or it gives you like physical therapy or all sorts of alternative therapies. Then it really has some type of benefit. But the straight one at this point is almost always covered by the supplemental, and you're really not gaining so much that it's worth all the investment of your cash every month. So that is the answer in a nutshell. I saw there was a bunch of other questions. Should I go through them, or you want to tell me them?
Go ahead. We have a question from Sharon. She's asking at what point in the Aliyah process do we sign up for our medical?
As when you hit Ben Gurion, you fill out a form and you have to check. That's why you really need to know ahead of time, which one, because I see so many people like, what do I do? What do I do? But you should also know that if you choose something, you can also change it after 6 months in Israel the first time, and then you can change it every quarter if you want. So it's not like you're locked in, but it really depends on like where you're making Aliyah to. If you're making the Aliyah, to like the Deep South or the Golan, then really Clalit is probably your best option. But anywhere else where most people are landing, then Maccabi or Mu'chedet.
Okay. We have a question from Nancy. Go ahead.
Okay, why am I not seeing? Let me see if I can. Do you want to read it to me? Because for some reason I'm
Sure.
not
So
seeing them.
she's writing. So in order to get an appointment without months of waiting, you can go private to a Maccabi doctor and pay up front and then get reimbursed.
Ah, excellent question. No, not private to a Maccabi doctor. He's a doctor who sees privately, and sometimes he has a contract with Maccabi, and sometimes he also sees privately, and he also sees in the Kupa. But you can't see him in the Kupa privately. So, for example, Ronald had this doctor. Let's say it's Dr. Moshe. Dr. Moshe sees on Agrippas. Sorry, Ronald, I'm using you as like an example if you don't mind. So he sees on Agrippas, which is where the main Maccabi office is in Jerusalem. Let's see. But this Dr. Moshe also sees people privately in Shaarei Tzedek. So Ronald is going to go next week to Shaarei Tzedek, the hospital. He's going to go pay the whatever it is, 800 shekels, and see Dr. Moshe in his office, which, by the way, does not look anything like American movie offices. Just putting that out there. There are no tomes. There's no like deep, rich leather things. So just prepare yourself. I don't know. But then in May, Ronald is going to go to the Maccabi clinic on Agrippas, take the little elevator, and go up to the doctor's little cubicle and see him there. Same doctor, totally different practice, different process to see him. Does that make sense, Nancy? Yeah? Okay. I hope so. All right, what's our next question?
I think.
By the way, his name is Moshe, but his first name.
I was in tune.
You're good. Yeah, Marcy.
I'm just thinking about questions that I've heard from others. I sometimes hear about people making Aliyah with elderly parents, and they want to have their parents set up. Some of the parents need full-time care, or some of them have medications. They want to know, is there any way to prepare before Aliyah?
That's such an excellent question. Okay. So first of all, I just put the caveat here is that this is also my job, but I also brought both of my older parents over on Aliyah six years ago, right? So I have experienced both the theoretical and the actual in this situation. So if your parent is already in a nursing home or really needs 24 nursing care that you don't think is going to be able to be provided in the home, then there is a way to make Aliyah directly to a nursing home. It's a bit complicated, but it is definitely doable, and I want people to know that ahead of time. So what happens is often like if the couple comes, right? So let's say the husband like really needs that, but the mother is more independent. So the father would go, let's say, to a nursing home, and the mother would go to like live in an apartment with a worker or with her children, etc. You cannot set anything up in advance. However, if you have people on the ground, let's say you live here, right? You're like younger and you're bringing your parents over. What I recommend to people is if they know that they want their parents to live in a house, or their parents want also with a 24-hour caregiver. Here in Israel, that's almost always with a foreign worker, meaning somebody who's come over specifically on a visa just to offer home care and cannot work for anybody else and cannot do any other type of job. You can hire sometimes somebody ahead of time, like a month before. You can interview, you can find somebody here who will be there when your parents land. I know a number of people, I've helped people do this, and I know people have done this as well. And then you start the bureaucratic process to make it legal, officially, which means you need a permit to have a foreign worker. And if you think that you'll be entitled to Bituach Leumi benefits, we talked about that before, the long-term care, the CUD benefits. Remember, we said it has a medical and financial. So the person needs to really need assistance with their activities of daily living, toileting, feeding themselves, personal hygiene, mobility, walking. They really need all of that. And the couple is earning less than 23,000 shekels a month. Earning, I mean pension and Social Security. Then they'll also be eligible for a stipend from Bituach Leumi, but they can only apply for that like within 6 months after Aliyah. because you can't get double booking with benefits. Meaning, when you make Aliyah, you get a sal klita, you get like a absorption benefit package. So you can't get that and the money from Bituach Leumi. But you can hire somebody legally to live with you and pay them directly. And right now, that's about 8,000 shekels a month, what you need, like fluid income, to be able to pay. David did such a good job, he can translate that into US dollars.
That's correct. Yeah.
So you need that at hand in order to pay for somebody. So that is a short answer to a very long and complicated situation, but I don't want anybody, like, I really believe that this is where we all belong. And I don't want people to be discouraged by Aliyah because they have, more complicated situations. Like, almost everything really you can figure out. It just needs to be figured.
We do have Lieberman from Far Rockaway, my old neighbor. She's asking a question here about Nefesh. Nefesh says to keep Medicare. What's your thoughts?
Oh, right, Medicare. So Alexander made a good point in that Medicare in general does not cover abroad, except for if in some states you have something called, it's not C, what is it, Addendum G or Section G? What are they called in Medicare? I forget the.
Medicare supplement.
Supplement, thank you. So Supplement G can provide you with sort of some emergency care benefits abroad. But not every state has it and not every person has it. So in general, it is not so helpful unless there are a lot of people who go back and forth. For example, people who have adult children and grandchildren in America, and they know they're going to go back for a few months. It's cheaper probably to just pay out, because you paid anyway through your Social Security, to keep your Medicare. So you know that if you get there, you are covered. As long as you have, like, American address you're sort of keeping, so that they also think that you are residing in the United States. That's the short answer. Does that answer your question, Liba? Yes? I can't see it.
Yeah.
Did I go off mute? Should I answer?
Sure, Liba, go ahead.
So I'd spoken with Sarah about this, Sarah Amneher, my Aliyah advisor, and she felt you should keep that and the supplementary, even if you're living in Israel, that you should keep this going. Different approach.
Oh, yeah, I know Sarah. Yeah, I work Sarah. Only if you're planning to go back to the United States, which a lot of people are, so it makes sense. But it's not really going to help you in Israel. That's
Right.
what I want to clarify.
Right.
You can also keep Medicare Part A. It's free. In case you ever need a hospital in the United States, you can keep that for free.
So the supplementary plan from AARPN gives emergency services in Israel.
If you're part of that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, we're kind of coming close to the end of an hour, which is great. A lot of fantastic questions, and of course, Aviva's doing a great job. Marcy?
I just want to ask a question on the other side of the spectrum. What if you're bringing children with disabilities? Is it similar to bringing parents? You gotta sign up with your Sal Klita and.
Right. Ugh, I've done such great questions. I gotta write these questions down because these are great. So yes, anybody coming with a child who is under 18, you, first of all, what I said beforehand, bring all of the documentation, any diagnoses that you've done. You really need to bring them to demonstrate. Now, your child is still going to have to go through the process of diagnosis here in order to put them into the system. So here you get your benefits. If your child under 18, you're going to get benefits from the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare. The Ministry of Education is fantastic. And they actually, like, people on pilot trips will enroll their children in special ed programs prior to Aliyah. They've sort of put that into place, and they have like a holding number. So even if you don't have a Teudat Zahut, you can register, and you can even do the committee meetings beforehand. They've really got it. I guess I'll go on recording for this, but the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, in my opinion, is still very firmly rooted in the 1980s. They haven't quite caught up to the actually current century yet. So they don't do that. And you really need to go through the process when you come. So for a lot of parents that I have, especially people who have children who are born with congenital disabilities like Down syndrome, say to me like, this is not changing, so why do I have to go through this again? Yes, it's a bureaucratic process that you need to go through. But if you hit the ground running, meaning you jump right in and you sign up for a social worker, you don't have to wait for Bituach Leumi, which a lot of people don't know. You can really get the ball rolling. And with children, it's a little bit easier actually to I see the people are in the waiting room. Do you see that too?
Actually, I don't, because you did not make me the host yet. If you want to make me
Oh,
the
I am
host,
so sorry. Okay,
yeah,
I
I
will.
didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, if
That
you
was
make
very
me
nice of you. I don't even know how to not make you the host.
so if you
Or
Oh,
just
just
here.
let
hover
them
over my,
in.
I
just let
just
him
left
in.
it. Okay, she's two people. She's the same person and she's joining from. So yeah, so you just have to go through the bureaucratic part. Usually now, like the major cities are much more they get it more with Olim, so they'll be more helpful. You need like the social worker and she goes with you. I'll tell you right now, Beit Shemesh, it's still difficult with their social welfare. So anybody who's making Aliyah to Beit Shemesh, just kind of know that. And if you're debating between two towns, I would seriously consider something else like Jerusalem, which is really set up for this and has really made a big effort to make that process much easier for parents. You should also know if you're making Aliyah with a child with special needs who's over 18 and you are their guardian in America, you have to reapply for guardianship in Israel. It doesn't change over. It's not complicated, but you have to do the request. You have to put it in. You have to have the judge give you the okay. You have to get a separate guardianship here before you. The same with people who are like making Aliyah with older parents as well. If you had, and power of attorney is not guardianship. Just so we all know that. I hope that also clarifies. Am I jabbering? Am I jabbering on?
No, you're
No,
doing great.
this is great. If you don't mind, I just have a few questions of things that I've heard before and something that I even went through personally. What about a returning citizen? I mean, you don't get Bituach Leumi or health coverage immediately when you make Aliyah.
Yeah. So this is a big issue. I actually had a slide that I was wondering if I was going to talk about, but I wasn't sure if it was like, if it was relevant for now. But yes, returning citizens is a complicated issue, especially somebody who's coming back with a medical condition and cannot get traveler's insurance or temporary insurance to cover that. They do this thing now, or it's not now, actually it's a long time, where they call it a redemption fee. I call it a fine. It is now 14,000 shekels. But if you come back to Israel and you say that Israel is the center of my life now, I quit my job, I sold my house, whatever, I've left America behind, and now Israel is the center, and you pay the 14,000 shekels, and Bituach Leumi believes you, then you don't have the waiting period anymore. Otherwise, you have a waiting period of 6 months where you have no coverage and you're not considered a resident. And Maccabi has like a pretty okay welcome package, which will cover things. There's also Harel has a pack. You have to pay more money, but you can get most things covered. It'll just be more expensive. There isn't any way to really get around that, either the waiting or the 14,000. They're pretty hardcore about that. And I will tell you very clearly that there is a stigma of those people coming back from the United States, that they have money, that they're only coming back here to get free health care. And they are not looking to like let that go, or, so you sort of have to be prepared for that when you come. Another important thing is if you've been gone 24 months, so 2 years, after 2 years, you don't lose your residency, but they'll make you wait 2 months to get your health care back, which is this unknown fact, which they didn't used to, what's the word? They didn't used to enforce, and now they are. So so people need to know that as well. Anything else?
I mean, I could keep going with questions and thoughts, but I
I
don't
have fun,
want to.
but I don't want to. We
I
can
don't
have our
want
own conversation.
I don't want to, keep people waiting, but I just think this one is important. I mean, we've been through it with kids and whatever, so I know I know what to do at this point. But for those who don't know, what is it like going to the emergency room? In the United States, you go to the emergency room, you bring your health care card, and you take it from there. It's a little bit different here.
Yes. So it's so funny because I actually like just did a post on Facebook like the other day on that because I get this question so many times and because the law has changed. Because it used to be like that, and then the emergency room, I guess they were funding a lot of visits and they didn't want that. So, there is a list of things that you can go to the emergency room without a referral from anyone. That is basically an open fracture. You were in a car accident. You were unconscious. You think you're having a heart attack. You're in labor. Obviously, that's only for the women in the group. Or you have a foreign body in your eye. That's the more or less the list. Or you have more than a third-degree burn. You can go to the emergency room and not think twice. Otherwise, you need to have a referral to get to the emergency room. How does one get a referral? If it's during office hours and you've seen your doctor, they can give you. You can go to the urgent care facility, which all of the Kupot Olim have. Sometimes they subcontract to private urgent care or they have their own. And that's why the first thing that you really should do when you move here and find an area is find out which is the closest urgent care, what are their hours, and where are they located physically. Between the hours of 12 at night and 6 in the morning, you can also go to the emergency room without a referral in most places because they don't have urgent care that's 24/7. You can also, Maccabi, you can call up and get a referral from a nurse. And in Mukheret, they have what they call the hybrid emergency room, which is also like you call them up, a doctor calls you back, and he can give you the referral to go if he thinks you need to go to the emergency room. So that means that you really need like a partner in crime. It's not something that you can manage by yourself because it's either yourself or a child, right? And you're dealing with that person, so you really need somebody else to deal with the referral. Second of all, obviously don't hesitate. Meaning if you really think, just go to the emergency room. I don't want anybody to delay going to the emergency room because like they're not sure whether. Like I remember there was a post on Facebook. The guy literally was like, I think I see my intestine. Should I go? And like on Facebook, and everyone was like, comment was like, go to the emergency room. Don't call the Kupa. And you can, if it's really a justified matter, and then you can always appeal on anything. I always tell everything in Israel, no is just the beginning of the conversation. So, you apply for that referral and the hitchayvut, which is the voucher for services, if you feel like you're not, if you're not getting it. But that's the sort of short, long answer to your question.
They all seem
I want to say
short,
that
long.
we have taken a kid to the emergency room, and then we've gone to Maccabi. We had 24 hours to still get that referral within 24 hours. Is that with all the quotes?
Yeah, they're stopping that. They don't kind of like to do that anymore. That's why they kind of they sort of like hopped to that's what people were doing and they didn't. But you can but you should for sure try it. Like if you did have to go and you didn't manage to do the paperwork ahead of time, then you should for sure do that. Sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. So you should just always sort of know as a matter of course that if you can try to go to the urgent care first. If you're generally not feeling well or you think you have it's always like you can go to like a terem or the services of the kupa kind of thing. If obviously if like you're bleeding out, then just go to the emergency.
Question: do you need permission from like Maccabi to go to Terem? Because I went to Terem, I had like temporary coverage, and I didn't speak to the Maccabi nurse first, and I had to pay the Terem.
So it really depends on the time of day and where you're located geographically. So that's why I tell people you really need to know, because there are some places where you don't need a referral to go to Terem, and there are other places where you do need a referral. Like if they said you could have gone to one of our offices because it was close enough or it was, whatever, then they won't pay. So it's always good to sort of know that ahead of time and have it on your refrigerator, because in an emergency situation, we don't want to have to make those decisions. So, to put that up. Like my daughter just moved to a place where it's literally an hour and a half drive to any major medical center. So yeah, I was like, okay, so we already know the hours, like when she can go. Basically, she can't have an emergency before 7 at night.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
have just a quick question. Is there such a thing? It's going to sound funny, but you know how there's the idiot's guide to all these things? Is there an idiot's guide to this medical system? Because this is a little overwhelming, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And this is the first time I'm really hearing anything about the medical system. So is there some kind of
So I will tell
something?
you, I didn't call it the idiot's guide, but I just redid my website, and I have a lot of this information on my website. So you can go to that's healthadvice.com, and I did it for just this reason. And I also have like a lot of what I'm saying now, I also have on YouTube videos that explain things, and I have how-to videos, how to make appointments for Maccabi, how to apply for things on Bituach Leumi, also on the YouTube channel. And I also have guides that you can also download from my site on specific issues. So I think that David, he put my website right on the chat.
I think it might have been the first thing.
Let's do it again.
We could put it
way
again.
up
I was about to say, as we're about to wrap up, Aviva, I'm glad you did this, that if you could talk about your website a little bit, but it seems like you covered that. But obviously Aviva's done the legwork. She's put it together. So if you want to just start reading now, because I was gonna say that that this event, we are recording it, of course, and will be available as well on our channel on YouTube. So you can definitely, take out a cup of coffee and
you can review, and you can always, like, on the website, it's Health Advise with a Z. I know it's spelled wrong, but that's what it is. .com. And you can always send me out an email to if you have like a specific question. And you can also ask. I mean, I'm part of the WhatsApp group, and I kind of keep quiet on that group. I'm kind of like, because it's just fascinating dialogue. But if there's like a specific health question, I try to answer if I can. So feel free also to ask your questions on the group so other people can get the answers as well. And,
I really like that fascinating dialogue mentioned there. Right? It is fascinating. All right, I think Marcy, right? We're past an hour. I think we had a fantastic event, right, guys? You covered.
It was fun. It was so fun. You guys ask amazing questions.
Thank you for your time. So helpful.
I'm glad.
Thank you so much, Aviva. This was really great. And everyone, please just look out for future Aliyah Network events. And we'll see you then.
Thank you very much.
I just want to add quickly, if anyone's interested in joining our WhatsApp group, our link is somewhere in the chat, and it's way up there. Okay, I'll have to find it. And also, if you have something that you're interested in learning about for Aliyah, just send us an email at aliyahnetworkevents, with an S at the end, @gmail.com.
All right, bye everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real pleasure. And we'll be doing more, so take care, everybody.